They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Oh, all right. Doug, you win.
How is the Insta 360 link? It's like that.
Can you do it? That was like a chest cam. Is that what we call it?
So I was controlling it with my mouse. I can move it around and stuff, but there I am with the other Magic Guys.
Yeah.
And then I just go back to the zip. There we are. We love
Damn, what's up, everyone? What is up? Welcome to episode 124 of the Magic Guys. Look at us, modeling our gear. We'll talk about that soon. But hey, I'm Josh Norbido. That's Nick K. I'll say it for you.
Sorry,
and then below, we have Doug Khan. Yeah, boy. We're all here.
That's me.
A catchphrase?
Yeah,
What would yours
it'd
be?
Like, I don't know. It'd be like Nick K. It'd be like, what up, friends? And then it'd be like Doug Khan. He's like, con man by name.
Oh, I got this. Salutations, kindred spirits. That's my jam.
That's right.
That's cute.
All right, that should be a shirt.
That should, is it? I mean, if it isn't, it should be a shirt.
You know, I need designers. I don't have guys making fine merch. I got crayons and a dream, but I got a business plan coming together, which includes designer money. So I'm ready to shift to professionalism. Hey, yeah.
People are out there, man. People are out there.
I'm going to hire some folks. If you're a designer, look me up.
Do it.
Word to the listeners. Anyone prospecting out there who knows some design? It's a great idea.
Find my email if you care enough.
Because not only do we have designers for the podcast, but we also have animated designers as well.
Brother, you know what?
Let's
I'm
check
ready
it out.
to work. I'm ready.
This is from Scotty P, ladies and gentlemen, the third rendition of the animated.
No.
Doug, you'll get a kick out of this if you haven't seen it. Here we go. Yeah, you had like a massive growth spurt on YouTube.
Yeah, I went from what was it, like 20k to 37.6k.
It's not right.
So we gained 17,000 subs. Josh is out here grinding, rise and grind.
Yeah, I've accepted my fate. I love seeing my friends, getting what they want. It's nice.
I've liked your Street Magic shorts.
Don't you mock me.
I've enjoyed them.
Oh man, it's so good.
I just love I just love how Mars's hair just grows progressively longer and longer throughout the sketch.
Yeah.
Like
good work, Scotty P. Man, it really takes me back to those days. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, beautiful execution. It's great. Hello to everyone in here as well.
Come.
Yeah, Nick, you have a nice shirt, Scotty's saying. Do you want to show the yeah, look at that, baby.
Look at that.
For those listening, this is the official new Magic Guys merch to, honor Nick joining the pod. We've got Nick right in front of the shirt there. And it doesn't just come in one color, because you see when you saw Doug on the chest cam, you see his beautiful blue shirt. And then I've got the white blend version. Boom! So you can really show out the pec muscles, And then you got a little, to show off the bicep, you got a little hashtag there, #MagicianLife. So they're out there, people. The MagicGuysShow.com. It's in the link below. And I reckon we do some kind of giveaway. What do you think? I'm thinking something like over the next week, every shirt that is bought, next week we'll pick one of them and maybe we give them a magic voucher or something to use at maybe Hyper Magic or Penguin. We'll talk about it. But I think we're going to have a giveaway voucher for next week.
You know what? I run a little jam at conjure.com. I got some good retail stuff over there. I'm happy to ship it in the States. Maybe international people pay the shipping, but
Okay, let's do that. If the person that wins is in the US, maybe we'll organize for Doug to ship it out. And if it's in Australia, then we'll ship it out on our end.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I'm curious how many friends we have in between that. Like, there's quite a distance between us and the States. I mean, it's mainly the North Pacific Ocean, but I wonder how many folks we have like in Philippines or on the other side, like in in like
I bet Josh
Sahara
knows. He
Desert.
probably analytics everything.
Yeah. Well, I should look into that. It's
And then
mostly
3%
US. and-
Philippines, probably.
Probably. Yeah, you're probably right. Hey, I just realized it's Scotty's birthday as well. 43. 43 and young. Boom.
You know, guys, we didn't get to talk about this before the stream. I was going to do giveaways because we've been talking about doing some retail stuff. I'm going to send Scotty my lecture package, which I've managed to get down to a packet wallet. There's a couple tricks in here of mine, my lecture notes, and some other swag. Scotty, please email me and we could talk about things, and I'll give you this for your birthday. And that's the giveaway today. Look at what just happened.
Damn. Look at that. The magic of the Magic Guys podcast. Nick, what have you been up to in the last week, man? How's your week going?
Man, it's been a good week, friends. We are working on a couple of really cool things behind the scene for the podcast, which I'm not sure if we should announce just yet, but maybe more exciting sort of thing to surprise everybody with next week. What do you think, Josh? Should we make a little?
I reckon we wait. It's up to you, man. It's totally up to you. I reckon we wait till we actually, it's fired up and going. I reckon that'll be cool.
Point is,
that'll be cool.
Stay tuned. We have good things coming your way. We've been working really hard behind the scenes with potential sponsors and really cool folks that will be backing us in the show, and obviously giving potential giveaways for all the cool listeners of the show. So please keep your ears peeled and your eyes open on the YouTube and, of course, on the podcast. So we have a very, very cool thing like that. Other than that, it's been life. It's been gigs, all in good fun. Is it worth talking about gig stories?
Well, what about your show, man? You have a show coming up. I put the link to your show in the description, but are there any tickets actually left?
Yes. I put a post yesterday on my Instagram that there is 12 tickets left. I've actually haven't promoted the show at all. I was going to do it a couple of weeks leading out from the Melbourne Magic Festival. So I'm performing a show called One Chance Only, and it's basically a double billing with my good friend Michael Pope. If you're not familiar with who Michael Pope is, he's this amazing performer, mentalist. He does magic. And the main line of work that he does is he actually probably specializes more so in crowd warm-up. So he's had a lot of experience in like television. And for those of you that haven't seen a lot of like studio recordings or of TV shows with
There's
the
a guy
live
who's
audience.
had some reps, huh?
Oh, you bet, my friend. And so like Mike
What a
is
good
the
gig
type of
that
guy
must be, to be in front of a television audience warming up that crowd. That's a regular check. It's a good audience. They're ready to be entertained. I want that gig.
And
I'm putting that on my list.
Yeah. You know what? And it's not an easy hustle, man. Like you've got to perform in a show. So so when you watch like a 30-minute show with a live audience, it takes like 2 hours to film, if not longer, sometimes 3. Television is like that. Television is one of those hurry up and wait type of
So he's like the
scenarios.
ambassador of goodwill during the event, then, not just the warm up. He's there during the lulls and such.
Absolutely, he's there during like when there's issues
No,
or whatever it might be, and and his job is to just generate vibe and keep the audience pumped the whole time.
Right.
And he's been doing this, to my knowledge, for decades.
Yeah, amazing.
Right.
I got to do a gig. I got to do a gig with him. I did a keynote and he was emceeing the event. What a perfect guy to have emceeing. He emceed this multi-day real estate conference, and he could just it was this weekend, bit of fun gig, because compared to TV crowd warm up, it was nothing. He would just get up, he had all these lines ready. He was performing bits of magic. He ended the conference with doing this prediction piece, and I've seen some of his promo reels. I love the promo reel he has where it's like he's like to the camera, he's like, I'm Michael Pope, da 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 da. If you ever need a warm up guy, well, I'm here ready right now. He turns around, he's got this whole studio audience going, we're warming up these guys. It's like, he's the man.
Genius. Yeah, so thankfully, it's a double billing, and I'm sharing it with Mike. So Mike will be opening, and then I'll be closing out the show. We'll be performing at the Laneway Theatre. If you guys haven't seen the Laneway Theatre, I implore you, look it up. It's a kind of a secret theatre hidden down a laneway, funny enough. And if you haven't been, it's a must experience. Like if you're ever in Melbourne, look us up. And Michael Pope is. So I knew Michael Pope as a kid, where he used to host kids' game shows. And I would see him and be like, and then I'm like, hey, I know your face. And I'm like, didn't you host Amazing or something like that? Or there's a couple of you know what? Is it drop the penny just dropped for you, Nabito?
Yeah, like I remember seeing him definitely over the
Yeah.
years on stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you'd never pick it that he does magic. I couldn't believe it either. When I was introduced to the MC for the event, they're like, "Oh, this guy Michael Pope from Melbourne is going to be MCing." I'm like, "Awesome." And then he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to check what magic you're doing in your show because like I do some magic throughout my MCing." And when you hear that, you're like, "Oh, okay, like you've learned like the newspaper Tamara store, or I don't know, you've learned like a quick thing as a gimmick." But no, proper full on patter, full on, 7 people on stage, blah, 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 like randomly predicts, envelopes and it spells out the company's name. I'm like, holy hell, what is going on here? Never heard of him before because he's just, like in that aspect, because he just heads down, bum up, a worker, but far out.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And the weird thing is that like I'm not someone who plays well with others when it comes to doing shows. I genuinely just prefer not to. I was in a band for 10 years playing, punk rock music before I ever got into doing magic. And what I love most about magic is that I can get to my gigs and go, "Oh, my drummer's not here. I don't need one. All I need is like my cards, my coins, and me. And I can go and rock a show." So this is the first time that
Rewind there a minute. Punk rock, huh?
Yeah, you bet, man. I was
10
in a punk rock
years?
band.
10 years of punk rock, right?
10 years of punk
Love
rock,
that,
alternative. Yeah, dude. It was great.
Do you still
like do I
What
still
do you
play? Well, I play guitar and I do backing vocals. So I was in a band called All or Nothing.
All or nothing.
Yeah, and so it was basically as a kid growing up, I used to hang out by the skate park, hanging out with friends, and we all just loved the music, all picked up instruments, and yeah, we all just kind of got into it. And that was all through
Made
high
it
school.
happen.
So made it happen.
What is
indeed.
the
And
booking process for a punk rock band to exist for 10 years? Like that's work, right?
you bet it is. And so we were averaging about minimum sort of 2 gigs a week. Thankfully, we had a good enough infrastructure. Marcus, my best friend, he had a father with like a van, and he like as we sort of got older, he
The
gifted
key
us
to
this
success
van.
is having family members with vans.
Well, yeah, I mean, it totally is, and then eventually we
Man,
ended up
could get a
like,
ride
getting
to
rid
the
of
gig.
van. Yeah, well, we ended up buying this trailer in the end. It was we had a trailer which was actually used to transport motorcycles, and so what we did was we reinforced it with like we welded it together and we put like heavy duty padlocks and all kinds of stuff, and then we would put all of our equipment in there, and then I used to like haul it in my Jeep. I had a Jeep Wrangler, and I used to haul that to all of our gigs, and yeah, it was a really, really good existence, man. Because I think in high school, you're either good at sports to get girls, or you're like, you play a guitar, which scientifically proves that you become 30% more attractive when you play an
You
instrument.
know what happened to me? My father handed me my grandfather's banjo. He said, "Here, son, you can have your grandfather's banjo." I was like, no, let me go back to Paul Harris.
I don't know if banjo
I probably
works.
had music in me, but I got a banjo.
I don't know if that has the same effect, right? Like the banjo, the triangle. There's probably a list of stuff that
Look, at
not like the
time,
recorder.
Steve Martin was around playing the banjo, so there was some hope for banjo people to be cool. But turned out he was the only one, and is still the only one that's ever cool with the banjo.
But he wasn't. He was cool, but because
Wasn't
he
because
made
of the
millions
banjo.
of dollars in movies and from his stand-up and.
Well, Billy Connolly was a banjo player as well, I think, right? And he had quite a successful career alongside comedy. He used to play in a band called like the Humble Bums, I think they were called. And yeah, and he did quite well out of that. Yeah.
Well, look, I'm learning so much already. What I'm thinking is, we should make one of the stingers in our show, like that you compose. That's got to be a thing.
Yeah,
you play
It's gonna be
the
like
riff and.
It's going to be a 14-piece symphony.
Like instead of because we'll get to gig stories in a bit, but instead of just playing that, it should be like gig stories, magician in the night, or something of that nature. What do you think, guys?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to like cut what you just said.
Yeah,
and
it's
place it
done.
as a
Can't
scene.
put it in the
Problem
can.
solved. Done.
Well, look, I'm the writer, but then you got to turn it into music. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Jeez.
Yeah,
anyway.
so the show's coming up. there's currently 12 tickets left. I've posted about it. I've got a lot of messages from friends and fans on my gram going that they're mad because they're like not going to be around. They're like they're either going away or they're like away on business or something like that, and like and they're mad at me. So I'm sure if it goes well, that I'll convince Mike to do it again. And there'll be many more opportunities to perform. I've got a whole bunch of new pieces I'm working on. I've also got some old pieces that I'm thinking about doing for the last time. We might talk about that a little bit later in our little hot topic section, but I think that that's something worth talking about. Like, does there come a point in your career where you need to go, I'm done performing this?
Yeah, that I have bits that have become that for sure. We'll get into that. Yeah, I just had a thought before I lose it. Oh yeah, go see Nick's show. Chris Annabelle's in the chat. I know you're in Melbourne. I know a few guys are in Melbourne. The link's in the description of this. You know, support our boy. Not that he needs it. He's got probably 9 tickets left now, but still, you know, you'll be able to see Nick K perform and Nick K's father right next to each other. They'll be performing magic. So yeah, and buy a shirt as well. You get extra points if you're wearing one of these shirts in Nick's show. I'm sure that'll.
It's a super comfy shirt. It's very nice shirt.
Right?
It really is.
Yeah. Thank you for that ad read, Doug. No, yeah, you're right. And especially in Australia, like it's what did you call it, Nick? It's like because it's a particular like breezy style of shirt.
Yeah, it's a summer shirt. So
yeah,
it's not like
I dig it. It's hot as heck right now in New Orleans. It's like I'm sure it is in Australia. So I appreciate a shirt of this nature.
Yeah,
boy.
It's a comfortable, breezy shirt. Really healthy. Good time.
Nice. Should we get on to our first segment?
You bet. Let's roll.
Segment.
So
gig stories, magician in the sorry.
God damn it. So Gig Stories is a section where we want to talk about not only stories that happen at our gigs, but just magic moments in general that we want to capture for posterity. So who has a story this week? Let's start with Josh this week. Josh, tell us a gig story.
Boom. So I only had to do one event last week, and a couple of interesting things that hadn't happened before. So number one is I think I'm addicted to making videos now because I've been making them every day. I think I'm actually addicted. So what I did was I got ready for my gig. I sat down. I shot a video. I took all the stuff with me so that I could get to the gig early, and I'm editing the video like in the car park, like in my car. Like my laptop's there. I'm like editing it. I even sent because I was chatting back and forth with Christopher Wayne because he's enjoying making videos as well. And I sent him this picture. So like it's literally me in my car like editing into the night before I go and blow everyone's mind, right? And this was the 007 James Bond card trick, if you guys have seen it, which is a phenomenon. It's doing really well on Instagram, and you know,
love hearing you say those words.
It's like my first
Lappy,
yeah.
The new laptop. Is that what you had in the car? Did you get a new laptop?
That's it. Yeah, the HP
Spectra.
Spectra.
Do you think that makes a difference in your creative process, being able to be like zip, zip, zap, do whatever you want?
The speed is incredible. Yeah, compared to what I was using. The speed is incredible. It can hold a lot more files, so I don't always have to be constantly putting every export into a, what do you call it? External hard drive. So you can like, you know.
Just having that kind of power on the go.
Hell yeah. So I was just able to edit it on the go, you know?
Yeah.
That is kind of the most laborious task about editing videos. Like when you have to record something on a device, take the device, plug in the device, get the files across from the device. These things are very laborious tasks. And then especially when you're trying to do magic where it might take 20, 30, 40 takes, who knows? It gets quite difficult. So just being able to, for me, being able to record directly into a computer, directly into my editing software, that's where it's at. And that's why I'm getting myself that 360 link that you got, Doug. That is like the best investment possible.
Yeah,
if you want to record right to the computer, that's great. Absolutely. For me, the AirPlay, the way that Apple shares its files wirelessly solves so many of those problems with this ecosystem I'm working in. Editing on the iPad, wirelessly sending it to the Apple instantly without a hiccup every time.
That's dope.
And
what when I was editing for this gig, I used just one of these, like a little hub. So I'll take the thing out of my camera, chuck it in here, you know, take the thing out of the Rodecaster for the audio. So I literally record my audio with this, put that in there, and then I just plug that into my laptop and everything, you know, all the files are there. Hotspot on my phone so I can download
So you're recording
effects,
separate
music.
audio. That's why your audio rocks so hard.
You got to do it, man. You got to do it. Because I've tried, you know, with the dead cat on the camera, but having this just out of frame is what's, you know, made so much difference. So much difference. And having these sound deafeners, you know, you've probably seen a million of these, Nick, as a musician.
You told me that. I forgot about that tip.
So if I'm talking this way, these are all layered behind me, so my voice isn't bouncing off the wall and getting that reverby sound. So I'm, you know, trying to make it as crisp as I can. Anyway, back to gig stories. So I'm addicted because I'm making the video on the go, editing before the gig. Anyway, this is the first time, well, not the first time, but it's the first time in a while that I've had to sign an NDA just to do this gig. So like I'm going to tell you about the gig, but I can't actually tell you about the gig, if that makes sense, because I had to sign this NDA of the people that were there, the type of event it was. But it was fun. But what I will say was like an annoying thing. So one was an annoying thing. We use flash paper all the time. We talked about it in last week's episode. But I'm in a venue that's not a prestigious venue at all. And the security come up to me and they're like, hey, you can't use any fire in here. Like, we don't want to be called back again. If we see you do it again, like, don't do it again. And it's like while I'm with a group. And so I just turn to this guy and I'm like, hey man, I'm a professional. I'm insured to use it. I'm trained to use it. You know, it's part of my act that I'm paid to be here to do. But he just doesn't, you know, he's just doing what he's told. So he's like, yeah, but you can't use it in here. So I'm like, whatever. So that was annoying. Like you know, we do this in all the, you know, fancy hotels, venues, casinos. Fire's not an issue. You go to a place that is, I would say, a tier down from that, had an issue. Anyway, so that bugs me a little bit. And then the notable thing of the gig, apart from all that stuff, let me just think. No, it's gone from my head. I just had a fun time. It'll probably come back to me. But anyway, Nick, what's your gig story?
Well, just off your point, isn't it sometimes weird where like you'll perform at something and they're like, oh, strictly no fire. I'm like, no problem. And then you rock up to the event and there's candles on every table.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what the?
So stupid.
I don't get that. Yeah, but NDAs is a good point. I think we should touch on NDAs and Hot Topic a little bit later. That's going to be a good time. But I had a really interesting experience, and I wasn't really sure how to express it. So let me start by saying this: as you perform, I think magic is the only profession you can have in which when someone tells you, "Oh, get effed" or "F off," because their minds are blown. Oh, fuck, no effing way. Or get effed. Wow, that's sick. It's the only profession where someone says to you like F off, get effed. And it's like the highest honor you can receive in Australian culture.
True. Yeah,
I'm never quite sure how to receive that, you know, because I always want to, like, I don't know what to say back to him. What do you say? Oh, F you very much. Like, I don't know what you would say back in return. So it's a weird way that people sort of show their love. Now, I have this routine that I'm super proud of. I have my version of the invisible deck. If anyone's seen it, it's effectively where I have a group where there's 3 separate people choosing 3 separate entities of a card. One will choose the color, red or black. One will choose the suit. One will choose the value. I then produce that card open hand at the fingertips by waving my hand up and down. It appears at the fingertips. They open it up, and it's the card that they collectively selected. I take it a step further because they always ask why, and then I explain to them or how, and I explain to them, I knew you were going to choose that playing card. And they're like, and I said, yes, because I wrote it down. And they're like, where? And I go, I wrote it down on my Instagram. Scan this QR code that's on my card box and go look at what I wrote on my Instagram before I came over to say hello. And they scan the QR code. And in my bio, it says, I knew you guys were going to choose whatever the value of the playing card is. And I've showed this to people, and they've really lost their minds over it. And it's a really good piece of magic that I'm super proud of creating.
Hey, I got a thing for you. Like, and you may have thought about it, but what if it starts by what color back is the card? Red or blue?
Oh, as in like you ask the spectator.
So when the card appears, I says, oh, and one blue card appears at my fingertips.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to try it and see if there is any difference.
Maybe for events where you want to level it up a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick, because it's not
Nearly
mind-blowing
good
enough yet. It's the color that makes the difference.
Like, well, I was performing it on Sunday, and I met this lovely couple, Mel and Martha. I remember them well. And Mel's mind was blown so hard that she couldn't speak. And what she said in return was something that just was kind of special. She said to me, she goes, "That was just so wonderful that I don't know how to show my love for it." And I've never heard anyone say that before. She's like, "I don't know how to show love for what I've just seen. Like, I'm just so taken back." And I was
That's
like,
cool.
wow.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
I mean, you're
Yeah, like-
manifesting a thought. That's, I mean, and in that case, it's so pure, right?
Yeah.
It's just like,
And
poof, there's your thought.
Yeah. And you get really close
Yeah.
to them and you go, "I'll give you my PayPal." That's how they can
No,
show
but-
their love. Money,
Yeah,
baby.
Yeah, well, sometimes people want to show love by giving you a tip or whatever else. And for me, I just go like,
Or
"Please
whatever
write a
else.
let management know you enjoyed my
Well-
performance. Please go leave a Google review or something of that effect." But you know, that's a nice way to show love. But the fact that she was so dumbstruck and said in return, "I don't know how to show love." Love is such a strong word. Like, she didn't say, "I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to." She just went, "I don't know how to show love," and I've never experienced that before. And I just thought that was something that, like, I had to share with you guys because it was just super cool to experience and to
Man,
receive.
that's so cool when you have
Yeah.
those moments, because that's a first for her. She's obviously never experienced that wonderment, if we'll call it that. And it is a funny thing. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely can't top that in stories of this week, but just like this group of teenage guys at this event, or, you know, young lads, and they're all mucking around, like swearing, whatever. And like, I start to perform and they're like kind of watching, but by the end, they're like, they started following me around the event. They're like, no effing way that just happened. Like, let me check the thing. And they're just like, no one was talking. They're just watching everything. It's funny how, you know, it's the one profession that creates wonder, you know, like not a lot of things give that feeling, like in entertainment or in watching TV or whatever.
Yeah, there's no definable way to react to magic. I get comments a lot of time on my videos when my like street audience isn't busting out into an ovation because they're stunned silent. You know, it's like the magic's so strong they don't know how to react, and people are like, "Oh man, that crowd doesn't know how to react right." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. They don't because they haven't experienced this kind of thing in life before." And sometimes you use cues to get that reaction, right? To get that ta-da.
Absolutely. And like, I'm the type of guy that will demand applause and help people talk through it. And I can appreciate what they're doing is stunned silence. I say that, but I also express in my script when I perform it, I go like, "Oh, like I'm getting a lot of this," and I drop my jaw, but what I need is this, and I clap.
Yeah,
and I go,
right.
"Yeah." And I go, "It just lets management know I'm doing a good job."
Yep.
It just lets the guy who's hired me letting like I've done a good job.
Right.
Like if you guys make noise. Yeah. And what I used to say was, I used to go like, "Here's the deal. You either clap or you tip. What are you going to do?" Everyone claps because nobody wants to tip. And everyone
This
goes,
is in a
"Wow."
in a show setting, right? That's what this is.
I mean, on the
I'm also-
street, I
yeah.
say this. I'm going to let the stunned silence segue into a standing ovation.
That's funny, man. Standing ovation.
Well, like, I'm sure you've got a story from the street you'd like to share with our audience. Tell us a story.
Me, a story from the street?
Well, a gig story. It's your turn.
Well, I've been on vacation for the last couple weeks. I don't have any real gig stories of note recently.
What about,
Yeah, but
do you
I'm
get any weird stuff happening in your lives?
Have I had anything weird happen in my lives? Usually is the answer. I live in the the Willy Wonka land of things never going the right way. Unless I'm doing very hard sleight of hand. That always seems to work out fine.
Have you ever had a moment where like you've done a hat? Like I've done moments where I've had hats and people have cried, or people have run up and hugged me, or like on the street where like, isn't there any sort of specific like hat lines or moments that people have come up to you and said, "Hey," and it's just stuck with you?
Currently, no.
Ever, it's okay. We're here to archive the moments, Doug.
What I'm thinking of is just how my magic moment that recently is just enjoying my anniversary with my wife. I did some learning. I did. Here's what I did that I love about magic. I spent time with magic books. I made a concerted effort to pack books, which I always do, but I don't always read them. I made an effort to read them. So happy I did. I've got many items bookmarked. I took some tricks that I haven't spent time with and things I wanted to level up, and I accomplished those things. So for me, my stories of magic has been learning and making myself a better magician, I feel. Plus, I got to relax and enjoy a wonderful anniversary with my lovely bride, Erin. Love you, Erin.
Please share with us, Doug. Look, what books did you have on?
So I took Nick DeFott's book, which I hadn't finished. There was a couple essays in that book. He wrote a book on comedy magic, if you're not familiar with Nick DeFott, Offbeat. And then a book I recently picked up, David Acker's, I don't remember the title. I took the cover off the book when I brought it. Random Acts of Magic. This book is
I've heard of this book.
Full of some great stuff. If you go through my copy, you'll find a few dog-eared pages in there. You can maybe see them. I just pinned back the corners. And you'll be seeing a couple of these items on shorts, I think, in the near future. But there's Jay Sankey, Richard Sanders, Josh J stuff. And when I looked at the index of this book, I was astounded at how much material David Acker has published. It's like, it's like 20-ish. Is that going to focus on that white paper? No. It's a page full. You can see it here of magic publications. I've only read one or two of his books. I loved every minute I spent with this one.
Are there any outstanding effects that you could share with like what those effects are that David's produced?
So one that comes to mind is the notion of this. I'm going to make this disappear. He says that's the premise. I'm going to make this disappear. And the concept is that the words this transform into the words disappear. David did it via a bill switch. So he'd say, watch, I'm going to make this disappear. And on the bill is the word this. He folds up the bill and he unfolds it and it says disappear. So the words transform on the bill. Now, I don't think it's a good trick on the bill switch, but I like the notion.
That's interesting. Do you think that is stronger than a bill change, or is it good as a build-up, or is it like good for that moment when you're not performing a show, but casually you want to just do a thing that's like, okay?
I don't think I'd put it in a show. Like, I don't think that's show worthy. I'm thinking of a short trick, I was thinking of using this thing actually, and maybe having the word this and say, I'm going to make this disappear. And it, instead of a production, it becomes a transformation, something of that nature where it's instant and visual.
I mean, that's what we need these days, is something quick and visual.
Well, it's part of my job to make these videos just like you're kind of doing, not even a job. It's just fun. Like, today I had this idea with Chrono Force, and I don't know if it was the greatest trick, but I enjoyed the process of putting this, little app into a new idea. And as long as it's fun, I'm going to keep doing it.
Tim asked an interesting question. You want to bring that up, Josh?
Yeah, man, I can do that. There we go.
Question is, do you guys still get that feeling that I can't describe when you truly amaze someone, or are you always in performer mode?
You go first.
If I could chime in. Okay, so I think of something where sometimes you achieve something like a watch steal, something that's like super risky where you can get caught, and getting away with it by picking a pocket or something of that effect. And there's a level of adrenaline that pumps through your body to achieve something like this. I do things like Card Under Watch. In the early stages of your career, you get this adrenaline surge when you finally pull it off. Eventually, you do it so many times that the adrenaline rush doesn't hit you because you're a lot calmer about it. It's kind of like I imagine like what a race car driver would feel like. You know what I mean? Like driving a car like super fast is probably like exhilarating to the average Joe, but for someone who is used to doing 200 mile an hour, it's probably like, oh, it's just what I do. It's like my thing. I'm always calm in this scenario, which is what you want. So it's this interesting dichotomy where you still experience the joy, but not because of like overcoming the fears that it took to be able to achieve that. There's sometimes a certain level of courage you need to have to do an effect, to take that leap, or to have that that guess that you would sort of do in this Sherlock Holmes deductive type of way. But when you can pull it off, it's great, but you just got to be brave enough to do it. And the thing is, what happens is you get to a point where it becomes comfortable, and then you start going, what else can I do to push it now? How can I push myself out a little bit further to achieve it once again? That's what I experience. What about you guys?
For me, if I jump in here, 100%. I know there are effects that will get a crazy reaction, but because they're not challenging enough for me, I can't let myself do them, because after doing 100 events in the year or whatever, I'll feel dead inside. So I purposely do challenging magic for myself. That's why I do a lot of stack work and false shuffles and stuff in my gigs, because like it's fucking hard to do, but in the moment while entertaining someone and to nail it. So that keeps me like constantly going and in the moment. So I have to do that just so I don't forget what's happened, right? And so for me, when I hit on things while doing something difficult, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. But sometimes a lot of this stuff now, you're right, you're just kind of doing it, you're calm, cool, collected. Like coin under watch used to be a rush for me. Now it's just a part of every coin routine I do with like, I don't care. It's just like, that's going to happen. Yep, it's under there. Great. Move on to the next thing. Now I'll reveal it. Great. Yep. Blah, blah, blah. Them reacting will let me grab the other coin so I can do the next bit and whatever. And I think that's what I love about this podcast, because it makes me remember stuff to talk about. Like over the last 2 years, I've always like remembered stuff so I could tell it on the podcast, but it makes me remember it. And but sometimes I'll still like, do you ever like, I'll drive home or I'll lay in bed and just kind of go through like what happened at the event, like both
Always.
good and bad, you know?
Always.
But I will say they do become a bit of a blur in December when you're just banging out multiple gigs a day. Like there are definitely events where I've just gone, oh, I've already done that event. Oh yeah. What did I? Oh yeah, I remember being there. Like, unfortunately, when you're doing just a mass amount, it's not good for you, but it does happen. But that's why my last line of this would be, make sure you're doing stuff that pushes you every time. Don't get comfortable, or that will happen more and more.
Yeah. I will say to your point, comfort is where the creativity will go to die.
On that note, I try to bring something fresh to just about every event. You know, even if it's just a new line or a new joke, it's usually a fresh trick that it's at least in my pocket as an option. Knowing that I can perform this new piece is always a rush.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm with the people, I always feel disappointed when I realize I'm going through the motions, when I catch myself just saying the words, and I'm like, my audience deserves more than that, especially if you're a professional at an event.
Well, let me follow up with that. Like, because how many times have you come prepared with a new effect, a new trick, a new something, and didn't do it? Because either one, you just didn't find the right moment, you weren't comfortable or confident enough to do it, or just were too scared. How many times has that happened?
So yeah, it's more often than not, actually, that this item gets used, right? And probably if I do use these things, it's later in the gig after I've done my job well, and then I start bringing that out. But, you know, it always depends. And depends on the item, you know. It's a self-worker.
You can actually find those moments where like you've done a good job, right? And then you have that person that comes back to talk to you. They're really happy. And you know, you're kind of in a safe spot to be like, hey, like I don't do this normally at gigs, but do you want to see someone I'm working on? And then under that premise, like it's okay to try something that's not like, you know, your A material. That's exactly how I'll bring new stuff into my routine. If it's
well, let me share, that's a really great point. And let me share something that was taught to me by Teller. What he does is he does something called hammocking. And what he does is he has a good routine, something to practice, and a good routine. So you have two solid routines that can stand up, and hammocked in between that, is something that you're trying. So you have this comfort of knowing that you'll start strong. They'll enjoy that. Something that you can possibly needs work or needs improving upon, but then you can end with something strong. So if you approach it in a 3-phase type of way, it's a safer way to try new material. And that was taught to me by our good friend Teller of Penn and Teller.
Flex. What a flex. Just flex city over here. Jeez. If I had a cap on, I'd throw it at you. I'd be like, cap. That's great. Hey, David, so David did ask a question. Do any of you journal or note down reflections after a gig? For me, no. But if it's a show, like I will note down, I don't write stuff down, but I will mentally take notes of like how a stage show went, if I should change the blocking or the order, but maybe not like what happened at the thing.
I definitely do, and I have other social groups, magic social groups that I will like discuss certain matters with, and I'm the type of guy that will go, this keeps happening, and I don't know why. What am I doing wrong? Who am I intimidating? Why are they, why is the guy being like this and the chick's enjoying it so much? Like, how do I, so there's certain things that I will perform, and I'll go like, I want this to be the experience, but I'm getting a lot of negativity from men when I perform this piece, and I'm not hitting on anyone. I'm not doing this, not doing that. Like, I'm trying to find ways to overleap that. And you just can't ignore moments and go, well, that's his problem. You got to go, no. It's not about that. You got to take a level of responsibility and be accountable for that, So it's good to have a hive mind and people like in this chat or, and befriend them and go like, what do you think I'm doing wrong? Or what do you like? And not have an ego about it. Because whether it's right or wrong, it's just good to get people's different points of view. People's points of view or theories are not gospel. It's not the bottom line. It's just that Johnny Ace Palmer thinks about stuff this way, Doug Kahn thinks about stuff this way, and Tommy Wonder thinks about stuff this way. And I use all these influences and conversations to formulate my own opinion. That's a good way to go about doing magic. Unless
Teller tells you, then it's like
the gold on the truth. You shut up and listen to Teller.
Tommy Wonder too, so you can't argue with him either, really.
Well, let me push back on that by saying, if anyone who's read Books of Wonder, he says things like everybody wants to see magic, they just don't know it yet. My mentality is if they don't want to see magic, screw them, go somewhere else.
But it depends how backed off they are. Like if they're like no, then fine. But if they're like just kind of like sure, then now you're gonna really
is that in the context of asking people if they want to see magic? Is that how that subject was addressed?
I always ask for permission to perform, and the way I do it is I will approach a group, explain that it's my job to entertain folks and show you nice people some magic, and I say, is now a good time, or am I interrupting important conversation? Some people just go, no, thanks.
I was curious about the Tommy Wonder quote about...
Like, is the book in reference to asking people to see magic?
Where does that frame of reference come from about if people want to see magic? Are you asking them, do they want to see it? Because they won't know. They do, they just don't know. That's Doug, what I think he's saying.
You better pull out the book. We know you got it here.
Look, we'll get to it next week. We'll do homework. We'll talk. Let's have Tommy Wonder. Let's make a new segment. Tommy Wonder said. Put
a pin in it. We'll come back to it. That's hilarious.
Done.
My goodness. Well,
okay.
What else is happening in the world?
In the world of magic?
Yeah. What is there a buzz around the Melbourne Magic Festival in Melbourne? Because, to be honest, over here, normally I see a whole bunch of stuff, but I haven't really seen much. Maybe your poster is the first thing I've seen about it.
You're kidding me.
Obviously, it's not marketed to Brisbane, but, what's the feel like over there?
Well, I think that leading into it a couple of weeks out, it tends to go really nuts. And ultimately what happens when it comes to the Magic Festival is we open the festivals by doing these galas in which everyone does like a 5-minute spot. And that goes gangbusters from there. Like everyone will sit back, watch a gala, which is almost like an audition where you get to see everyone and people will just start making notes of like, oh, we got to see this person's show. We've got to see that person's show. So that's kind of how it goes down. We are having one of our monthly hangout sessions that I mentioned some while ago where we have the Magicians at Work. So there's a lot of people who are going to be trying out new material at Magicians at Work and obviously promoting their Magic Festival shows there as well. So people will be flyering and so forth. Yeah. And, you know, we also do like mail drops as well. Like we'll get boxes of like brochures with all the shows that are going to be going on. And I'll get boxes of it, walk around my neighborhood and go to all the apartments and just dump, you know, a whole bunch of pamphlets in there and so forth. So yeah, it's as far as ticket sales goes or everything else, I haven't had a chance to catch up with Tim yet, but I will be catching up with him on Wednesday and I'll be reporting back next week on how that's all going to go.
Hell yeah. I look forward to the update. Maybe we can get some kind of scoop at the festival while you're there to play like on the pod. That'd be pretty cool.
Will you be recording this show? Of course you will, right?
My show?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mm.
I think there's a lot of legalities and so forth that come with that now. You've got to like tell people that you're recording or get permission and stuff. So I'll just make sure that's all well and good. But one of the most exciting things I have to make mention about the Magic Festival is that we have an amazing lecturer coming. And that lecturer is Mario Lopez.
Woo!
And
Oh my God.
Yeah. And if anyone's familiar with Mario's work, you just need to see his salt pour and burst into flames. And like, it's just like, you just erupt with laughter. You just explode. He's just so great. So he'll be doing a lecture, which I'm really looking forward to because I love learning magic. So that is probably going to be my highlight. And I look forward to sort of sharing, that experience with our audience as well.
That's crazy.
I wonder how many of our listeners are actually going to be at the festival or popping in. Like, that'd be great.
Yeah, let us know. Drop a comment because it's always cool when you meet someone and they're, you already have this kind of relationship. Like when you listen to the same stuff, like whenever I meet someone who listens to Hamish and Andy, the podcast, we're already a step above the just meeting someone point now, like Dash Magic, who's in the chat here. He actually is on the tech team at QPAC, which is the biggest theater in Queensland. And it was unreal. When I went to perform Showman there, he came up and he's like, oh man, I'm a fan of the podcast. And I was like, that is ridiculous, bro. Like the fact that you've somehow found your way to listening to us and you're here is like such a cool vibe. And now we're like bros for that time, and so hit him up. And again, if you're wearing one of these shirts, you get extra dabs from Nick. He might even buy you a beer. He told me. So I don't know.
Yeah, why not?
Especially if you're under 18.
Yeah.
So that'll happen.
2 beers. Yeah. That's a good question. Like, you've been in this realm for a while. How many times do you get stopped and be like, oh, I've seen you on the TV. I've seen you on the something or other.
Lots now. It's commonplace for me to be in public and get noticed. An average, say I'm out street performing 3 hours, it might be half a dozen people. That's how often it happens. Not too much if I'm not in magician mode.
What was that story? Weren't you in Vegas once and someone waited in the lobby or something?
This is when I knew I had made it. When there was someone waiting for me. It was on my wedding day and someone was waiting for me to come back into the hotel because they knew I was going to be there.
Doug, I was told a story about a Japanese magician who was such a fan of yours that they located you and waited for you at like the front of your home for you to like talk to them. Does this ring a bell?
You might be confused. Bob Possible, he does get confused as different races, but he eventually did stay at Doug's house. Yeah.
Pretty accessible. I don't recall that happening.
No?
No.
Maybe he just drugged Doug. and he has no
At my
recollection of
house,
it now.
I'm thinking of the international visitors I've had here. I don't recall.
They would
but,
travel all the way from Japan.
I forget
just
things. It's one of the things I do.
Yeah, just for an opportunity to meet you and to talk to you. Like I've heard stories.
That must just be, a sign of how famous Doug is now. You can't remember every interaction, Nick,
Oh yeah.
I can't remember tomorrow. I don't know what's going on in this. I don't know what's happening.
Bro, if you can remember tomorrow, you are a savant.
Yes, that's me.
I can just imagine Doug at karaoke.
I can't remember tomorrow.
I'm out.
God.
Yeah.
Something.
This is where I'm at, folks.
Yeah. Well, it's, what do you think of this product? I bought a little a kid's magic kit and it came with a paddle stick.
Dude, that's
like
such
a plastic,
Oh,
a little
listen.
plastic.
Lonnie Chevry was telling me about this routine he does with this man. I saw him in Dallas.
Oh, yeah?
He said, Doug, let me
love
tell
him.
you about this bent penny trick I do with the paddle. It kills. So you carry a pocket full of bent pennies with this paddle. You reach in your pocket to get the paddle out, get the penny. You're like, look at and then you grab a penny from their ear, and then you say, here, hold this. And you put the old switcheroo in their hand, put the paddle away. He says it's a worker. And he said Chad Long was doing it.
So you're doing your thing and then you're like, huh, and you pull out a coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an interesting miser's idea.
Huh. Dude, all right, forget about the podcast. Let's just discuss this for a second, gentlemen, for our own use. That is an interesting
Let me tell you
approach.
about Lonnie Chevry. This man knows real work. Okay. This guy knows, and for him to just randomly tell me that this trick kills, he had no reason to tell me this. This trick must kill. I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Someone listening to this, or maybe Josh with his green money paddle, will be doing this for the rest of his life. But here's what he said. You're working in a hot environment. It's no mess, no fuss. It's a pocket full of pennies and a paddle, right? And then you're leaving souvenirs at the table. So everyone gets a little something too. Boom. It's a worker.
That's genius.
I love that. And what about, just to take it in another direction, is there a way you can so you go to the venue and maybe it's maybe not the straw folded up because that might be weird, but maybe there's like an object that, is on every table or that's around the venue.
Let me tell you, one of my favorites is Steve Mayhew's Carnation production. He comes up to the table and he says, oh, hello, I brought you a gift. And he takes a piece of flash paper out. It's a wadded up ball of paper. Here you go. It's trash, right? He goes, well, you don't like it? It's just trash, right? And then he lights it and it turns into a carnation. And then he splits the carnation in two and he gives them to the ladies at the table.
That's
so he's
great.
got a pocket full of carnations, pocket full of flash paper, and he spreads love across the event. There's flowers everywhere, and it's a great moment. Steve Mayhew, you're a genius.
Wow. That's a step up. Like when I do an event, a private event or definitely a wedding, I'll take roses. I'll go buy live roses on my way to the gig and I'll load up 2 at a time. But I only produce one, with flash paper. David Stone style, it's like reach. With
Oh, that's sweet.
That's cool. So
that's cool.
But Nick, do you work with flowers these days? What are you just sort of? I mean, not really. Maybe Holy Moly isn't really the place, but if you're in a wedding gig or something, are you rocking daffodils?
No, I have done some stuff because I remember doing in my show I had this very hilarious bit. Ultimately based around the French kiss routine, which I don't do anymore, as I was saying, that we sort of retiring routines. And I did this really funny bit about dating and whatever else. And I do this whole bit where I get someone up on stage and they get a microphone and I'm I create a restaurant scene and I give them a menu, but the menu's got a script in it. And so we're having this back and forth as they're clearly reading from the script. And it's this very hilarious piece. And ultimately it's my date spectator coercing me to doing a card trick, and so I do all that, and we do a French kiss routine and make it super funny, and I produce a rose in that process because it makes sense. On a date, you do the rose, bang, and away you go. But I think if anyone's great at producing roses, a good friend Apollo one of the very awesome showmen, you know, like that's certainly like his bag. But you know, I think that the best way to do it is to do that that old Kevin James floating rose,
baby. The floating rose.
Floating rose routine. For the listeners who haven't seen it, look at Kevin James floating rose, and you know, I've seen Copperfield perform it, you know, a meter from me in his show in Vegas, and that's a proper piece of magic right there. And the method's just really clever, and it really opens your eyes into thinking about like, oh, sleight of hand is you know, one thing, but using other parts of your body is another. Like that's a good moment.
Look, that tutorial on that subject is really eye-opening, and the way that he animates that dollar to make it look alive and not look like it's hanging on string, you know, is worth your attention if you want to do that trick.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the fact that Copperfield's still rocking it, you know.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
that speaks
40
volume.
plus.
Absolutely.
Doug, did we talk about the cruise ship magician getting punched on stage for doing French kiss? Yeah.
I saw that video. Did we talk about it?
He's an Aussie guy too.
Oh.
Do you guys?
We don't have to go into, you know, him particularly, but just, I guess, the effect. Like, is it, I know because of the pandemic, it's sort of an effect that should be kind of retired, but do you feel like, you know, the way the routine is carried out is sort of a retired in the past routine now? Or is there still a place for
When
it?
I first saw it, I was like, what's this nonsense? Nobody wants to do that. Maybe some hot chicks and hot dudes. If you're a hot chick and a hot dude, and Nick, you could pull it off. Josh, you could too. Maybe when you had hair more than now. No. I'm just saying. Look, no,
Now I'm just an evil villain.
Like, to ask a female to be in that situation in a modern environment, maybe with friends, but in a professional setting, no. And I don't see myself presenting this moment for me ever.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
me.
and see, I was doing it in my younger years, and even then when I did it, I was very bashful because it's for those who are kind of unsure what we're talking about right here. French kiss is an effect in which you have two signed playing cards. You, the magician, signs one, and you fold up your card and put it in your mouth, and the spectator also signs their card, and they fold it and put it in their mouths, and then through the exchange of a kiss, I do it on the cheek. Because it's more gentlemanlike, and I'm also very bashful as a character, and just around women in general. Let's be real about it. But what will happen is, even though the cards are concealed in our mouths, they sign cards swap places in this effect. So I think that just with times being what they are, with viruses being one, and second, that's our friend Ben, and so it's kind of. See, that's not quite a kiss.
Pow! Right to the kisser. Man.
Yeah.
That's a lawsuit in the States.
That made crazy news. And, you know, there's a lot of speculation on, you know, obviously the guy's in the wrong. Like, it's a show. You don't, like, the guy's not trying to steal your wife. But there may have, I haven't seen the show, but I know when people do this show, this act, there can be a lot of, you know, innuendos and stuff building up to it that may tip the line to a drunk husband watching this on stage, you know?
I've seen women perform this where they chose a spectator with a man who is clearly on a date or with their wife, and I've seen women kiss these men on the mouth. And I'm like...
The old cheek thing?
No, literally just like... And the whole room goes silent. Like, did she just do this?
You got her number?
Yes, but like, it's just kind of like, I don't know, man. I think that anything that goes into that realm, you know, I had a friend of mine who was telling me that he does stuff where like he handcuffs people in his roving sets as a gag, and I was like, that sounds pretty extreme for me. Like, I don't want to do that. He can get away with it remarkably through his character, but it's just, as far as like the risk factor, I'm not interested in taking risks to that effect anymore. Like, my pickpocketing days are almost well and truly over, and I miss it so much. But I've had police reports against me going, oh, he's stolen rah 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 rah, and it's like, bro, I'm the entertainment. It's what I'm hired to do. Yes, I gave you back your watch, Yes, I gave you back your wallet. No, I didn't skim your credit card. And then you get reprimanded, and then like your agency goes, I can't book you until this police report goes away, and then you lose. It's not the first time. And
now
then
that's a gig story.
Yeah, and then I can't perform for 3 weeks. And 3 weeks, like imagine everyone who works a 9 to 5 or works period, don't make a wage for 3 weeks. Is it worth the risk? Is it worth it? Like, is my ego sort of at the point where like I need
like
to
my existence recently?
Right?
I mean, yeah. Can you hear my dogs in the background right now?
Yeah, they're saying wrap it up, Josh.
They're telling me it's been an hour already. What the hell are you doing? No, I was gonna say, what about the female mentalist character on the Purple Rabbit that does a bloody trick with a butt plug? You know, like that's pretty extreme. You know, get a guy on stage and he's like coloring in the butt plug picture, and then she's like, "Look, it matches." Like that's, there's obviously a lot more to the routine, but
I need to make notes on things I'm missing. Butt plug magic. Thought I knew everything.
Doug, like that's definitely around, Bob Possible can explain to you and explore maybe, but
I've obviously led a sheltered magic life. I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, look, as we wrap up this episode, I think, Nick, it's only fair that as the latest member of the podcast, you give us your ending thoughts for today.
The final word. Okay. Today's final word is just be good at magic and don't suck.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.